Hello and welcome to the second season of Ruffells Ad Break. In this episode, I have a chat with Jimmy Farrant, media consultant at U Media and contractor to NZME. We talk about how two channels done right is better than being everywhere poorly, clear lines of communication, and how marketing success is reliant on the groundwork being done right. Also, a massive thanks to our sponsor, Pegasus Bay Wines, producer of some of New Zealand's very best wine.
Ruffells Ad Break.
How would you intro yourself? Who are we talking to, Jimmy?
The best way to intro me would be I've done a lot of things over a long period of time.
Yeah.
So I've got a number one, a family person, right? So I've got like 3 kids and wife and the house and all of that sort of thing. So you've kind of got like that part of your life, and then I've got sort of a friendship circle and client circle, which often kind of merges into one anyway, which is quite a good way I find of actually working. I am a perpetual kind of wanting to, like, interested in learning or picking up new ways of doing things. So I get bored is probably, I'm driven by boredom or pain. Do you know what I mean? Like,
The pain of boredom.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And those two things are sort of both quite good motivators.
Yeah, they are.
You know what I mean? Particularly the pain one. And, I'm also like a big fan of kind of inflicting the pain before it gets inflicted on you. If that makes sense, because I've found over the years that you're like way worse off when the storm comes and you're in the eye of it.
It's
you're
coming.
Like, I really should have done something about this.
It's coming. Regardless, if it's calm, it's like, shit, where's it coming from? Yeah, totally get that.
Yeah. And look, don't get me wrong. I also I like a little bit of carnage from the storm. It makes for better work stories.
Well, that's
or life stories.
Or life stories.
It's probably more.
But that's also the challenge, right? So the thing is, if you're used to moving, and if you like you were saying before, if you're on the telephone and you're walking and talking and you're doing all that kind of stuff, that's because you're moving, you're kinetic, you're trying to solve problems, you're trying to get involved and get in front of stuff. That's pretty normal. I don't think there's anything unusual about that. Have you always been that way as a kid? Are you one of many? Are you a single child? Were you bullied? Are you sad? What's going on?
Yeah. Well, I actually, like, the first kind of 10 years I was brought up in Arrowtown. So my father was a teacher there and we lived in the schoolhouse across the road. So I can think
of worse places to grow up.
Mate, it was amazing. So I was just constantly kind of up, back and beyond and, exploring. He was very much into kind of historical stuff. So you'd be in Macetown or Skipper's Canyon or, on a quad bike or motorbike up the back of everywhere. So it was a pretty, if I think back, that sort of piece of it's quite idyllic and really.
How many of you? Is it just
3? Yeah, so I'm the eldest and then 2 other sisters. So that's the. So I had a father who was that, and then I had a mother who was like a theatrical kind of, she was Maria in the Sound.
Explains a lot.
Yeah, Maria in the Sound of Music. She was trying to, she was always trying to get me into something. So I was in the Joseph and Technicolor Dreamcoat at one point for the Queenstown Operatic.
There we go.
Yeah, that's right.
Who were you?
I was actually just in the chorus. They never gave me a role.
Tree number 4.
Yeah.
So, don't worry, we love you. You're in the play.
Yeah, totally. So there was a little bit of that, and she was sort of an opera singer as well. So I had these kind of 2 sides, one which was really outdoorsy, and one which was, very much into kind of theatre and music and all that side of things. So. And then I went to Shirley Boys, and which was a really good school, and just continued with the music vibe. I started, wrote a couple of tracks in the early 90s.
Watch out!
I'll tell you what they were.
So what was the vibe?
The vibe was
easy listening.
The first one was we'd figured out that girls were a thing. Me and a mate of mine that we really liked, and we were sort of like Kevin and Perry go large at that point in time, and just I don't think we could attract a girl to save ourselves, but because I played the guitar and
you're already the next level.
He was prepared to have a go at vocals. We wrote a couple of tracks. But and we sort of fantasized about how that would sort of come to pass, and we might make Rock Quest and maybe sing it in there. I think the lyrics on the first one were it was a little bit soppy. I think I love you, girl, I always will. They never said love could be like this. And I mean,
Jimmy, I love how at the front of that you pretended that you didn't remember. And then as soon as you were in it, the look in your eye was like, I'm right back there. Here I am.
Yeah, and I mean, the issue there was that we didn't actually have any love for any girls because we didn't really know any girls to love. And so it was sort of a postulation, sort of like future us. But I don't know, I just didn't sort of go anywhere, that one.
Yeah. Oh, that's a shame.
Yeah, so I've been thinking about remastering it, actually.
I was going to say, look, if you need a hand with that, let's see what we can do.
Yeah, and then the second track was called Pain. And I think that was based off the back. It was a more grungy sort of...
How old are you at this stage?
Guitar.
Sort of 14, 15? Or
it's a 13-year-old moment.
Wow.
Yeah.
Pain.
Pain. We were just angsty.
Yeah.
A lot of screaming in there.
You needed to do something. You needed an outlet.
Yeah.
And that was it.
We ran out of vocab for vocals. And
fantastic. Did you work along the way? Did you have any part-time jobs or summer jobs or any of that sort of stuff? Or were you...
I was selling... do you remember there was that car yard called E-Cars?
I remember, yeah.
It was a good friend of mine who worked in radio at the time. He worked for More FM, and he's like, "Oh, Jimmy, you should probably get into radio one day, but you're probably a bit young. Why don't you just go and sell some cars and just hone your skills in that space for a while?" So I went and worked for this guy called Kelly Kett, and Kelly was like an old school car dealer.
Yep.
And he's like, "Jimmy, people are going to like you, so what I need you to do is like just find the car, you go for a drive. I'll price their trade and I'll make it sorted. And when you come back to the yard, you just ask them, do you like the car? And if they say yes, and then you say, if the price is right, will you buy it? And then you turn around and you walk to the office and I'll close them, right?
Yeah, right. So I'm like, tag team.
So people just like, will people do this? You know? So I'm like, get out of the car. Do you like the car? Yes. All right, come with me. And so I turn around and then I'm like, they're following me. This is the best.
Yeah.
And so, and then he'd just do this old school kind of sales close. He was like, if we did it for this, and he'd kind of find this kind of pressure cooker sort of moment where, he would close them and probably make no money on a car because, I don't know, 6 months later it went out of business.
But we're moving stock.
Yeah.
We're moving stock. Don't worry about the bottom line. We're moving stock. I don't know him for him, but yeah, that was definitely
Yeah, so anyway, and then I stayed in cars for a little bit longer.
Yeah.
And then ended up managing a yard for Donathorne Sims, one of the used yards, and then kind of just got sick of weekends and all of that sort of stuff, and then kind of exited into the radio world.
Yeah. So radio world, what are you selling in radio, or are you sort of getting some airtime? What at that point? What was your what was the first thing that you did? Do you remember the first deal you closed in radio? What was the first thing that went to air?
The first thing that went to air, I think, was like a total give me. So there's two ways that leads were generated, or three ways probably at that time, but this one was an inquiry into the station, like, we need somebody to come down and work on this campaign for us. And they were like, we've got just the person. It's newbie number one. Here, Jimmy, go and work on this. And it was a pizzeria kind of restaurant thing on High Street.
Yeah.
And so we decided to do a road show down there. And the problem was that it had no brand, so it was a whole bunch of ads on like ZM and like the ZM Thunders out there. And I'd turned up to obviously, play the supporting role for the thing. And they're like, fuck, we need to get some pizzas out there on the street. Nobody's in there. Like, the place is dead as fuck. We just need to get some stuff happening. And I'm like, oh, well, what do you want me to do? And they're like, oh, go out there and have a pizza throwing competition. And I'm like, so there I am on High Street with like nobody in this thing trying to throw pizza dough for the first time to get like this. It was just, it's just so embarrassing. I'm like, what have I done with my life here?
Yeah, what decision have I made?
And why did this thing not work? I thought, I was told that if you put ads on the radio, people would turn up.
Yeah, right.
Not realising, obviously, at that point in time, and I had no clue about sort of, these kind of things, and that, it was never actually, it was definitely going to sort of mirror the Titanic's kind of maiden voyage.
Did you know at the moment when you were throwing that pizza? Is that when you knew this wasn't working, or when did you know? When did you figure that out?
Look, I had the sinking feeling as I walked down the road towards the restaurant. I mean, I'd worked in hospo before. I wasn't stupid. I didn't know what I was doing in marketing, but
Yeah,
I knew enough to know enough to know that this
isn't going to work. Yeah, that's interesting though, right? Like, so that is man, that is something that I think, and we're talking local, right? We're talking small budget, local. Great experience to get some runs on the board to figure out what does and doesn't work, whether it's right then and there. But there is that bit which is because we were talking a little bit before we started recording about that line between just somebody punishing you to get the most out of every cent, every second of airtime, and to a point where it's no longer viable for your business. And then there's the reverse, which is, I'm so desperate, I need some airtime. We'll do anything. It's like kind of two extremes, but they both have problems with them, right? So I guess how much of that do you have to go through before you become valuable to a client?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think I'm not sure where that sort of point came in the career. I guess you rely hugely on the people around you. Well, always, but particularly in those kind of early stages of going, hey, I've got this client, this is the budget that we've got to work with, and how do I make it work? So you do rely on, and there's a lot more structure now than there ever used to be. It did used to be a little bit of a kind of a spray and pray, or put some bonus on here, or do this or that or the other thing. And when I kind of look back at some of those kind of campaigns, you're like, probably shouldn't have done that at the time. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
The hindsight's perfect.
But then there were less channels to market then as well, right?
Definitely.
There were more eyeballs just because there were less channels.
Yes.
As the market changes, you sort of adapt and,
I think, look, the funny thing is, like, even now you still need to maximise channels, if you know what I mean. I think there's sometimes a bit of a propensity to kind of go down the track of almost, well, we've got to be on lots of different channels and in lots of different spaces, so let's split this budget up in 10 different ways, or 5 different ways, when we should probably do 2 really well. You know what I mean? And then kind of build it off the back of
figure out where our demographic actually lives and feed it to them.
Absolutely. If you don't have like the impact or the frequency or the creative right, then you're not going to have a campaign that sort of actually works for you at the end of the day. But what was the question from back then?
I don't know, really. I was just saying that.
That sort of journey, wasn't it?
How do you figure it out? How do you figure that out? When does that come, and when do you actually become valuable? When does one? Because there's the doing, right? So understanding that I need the creative and I need I need the budget, I need a willing client and all that sort of stuff. But I need to know what the channels are. I need to know what the demographic. How long does it take to become valuable? And once you figure that out, do you just stay there or do you move with the times? I know the answer, but
Oh no, it's a good question. I think that how I approached it, I knew there were a couple of old school reps who had been around for a long time, right? And so I've just always been a fan of and generally I think quite good at picking who's really good at doing what they're doing, and then just going, hey dude, I've got this is my brief, help me out. And most people are pretty forthcoming in that sort of thing, particularly if you're, I latched onto a guy who was like 30 years in the industry, and I'd be like, mate, how do I get this to, Marshy, how do I do this? And he'd be like, and he loved mentoring, somebody new who would go, basically had clocked that he knew what he was doing. And there were a number of people like that, and still are across my kind of career. So, and I've sort of always, had an eye or I guess been open to kind of seeking out those people. Because the bottom line is that you can't do it by yourself. There's complexity in every channel that you're trying to approach. There's complexity in the creative. There's complexity in the production. There's complexity in everything. With
the client?
With
the relationship?
The stakeholders. And I've got to sell it in anyway. And so I think, you basically have to be the person, if you're account managing or business developing, who is the go-to person who knows where to make things happen easily and effectively and where you're going to get a good outcome, because there's no point in a good media strategy without good creative or without good content and so on and so forth. So I think, I think that first stage is kind of, then you've got some confidence. So going back to pulling other people in, you've then got confidence. So I'd go to Mark or Marshy or whoever it was at the time and I'd go, right, what does this look like? And they go, nah, you need to do this and this and this and this. And then I'd go back and go, well, fucking big boys have told me what to do. Here's what we do. And so you go in with confidence.
Yep.
And so if you go in with confidence, people are obviously generally, they're like, oh, sweet, I don't have to ask too many questions. I just know that it's going to work.
Yep.
And then you get campaigns that work because they've got better frequency or higher impact, or they do what they are supposed to do.
Yep.
And then you kind of get enough of those case studies over time, and guess what? You know what you're doing yourself.
And then the junior's asking you, hey, Jimmy, how do I get this to work?
Yeah, absolutely. And then you kind of, that whole sort of thing, you graduate onto bigger clients, and there's more, then it becomes more interesting. So that was sort of the journey from a local kind of account management piece to a key national account management piece, which... then all of a sudden you're on a plane to Auckland, to the big smoke, company card.
All the way from Arrowtown.
That's right.
Here he is, Jimmy Farrant.
That's right.
Yeah.
You sort of like grow an extra couple of inches and swagger
that's right.
once you're on
that's
the,
right.
first time in the corridor lounge.
I've turned up.
That's right. I'm to Auckland.
Yeah, it's funny that.
Going to peacock around head office.
Yeah, that's right. Who's that guy? That's Jimmy. Everything in that voice, it's just, it's funny. Oh, shit. So what is it that you want to get out of the work that you do? Has it changed over the years? What is it you want?
I think, it's funny. I think, originally I would have... I always liked writing the ads, obviously along with songs from time to time, as you know.
Yeah, that's right.
But I always liked writing the ads for the car.
Not just the chords. There's the pain. We didn't go the lyrics on that one.
I can feel it.
Yeah.
It's a great interpretation. But I always liked writing the ads for the car, for the press when it would go out and all of that sort of thing. I'd labour over that and pick the right cars and write a headline and all that sort of thing. So I always kind of liked that sort of space and seeing what the reaction would be. So there's this kind of cause and effect piece, which is like it's probably more of a creation thing, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And, I still love that piece of it. Now that you've kind of taken a conversation and then that's turned into, these billboards or ads on air or this, like content piece between look with a journo you've been working with a client or, creating a lovely video or, whatever it is. I think there's this kind of cool, something wasn't there, now it is.
Now it is there.
You were a big part of trying, driving that forward. So, and certainly then kind of client success off the back of it, because that's what we're all here for.
And what is client success? Because I think there are two things, right? So there's certain clients it's linked very specifically to sales, or it's linked to KPIs or whatever it is, and then there are others who just want bragging rights that their mates have seen them. And we're talking about different tier of player, I suppose. But what do you think success is for a client?
Yeah, I think. Well, obviously, look, at the end of the day, it's there to, if they're not, growing as a business or moving product it's a really nuanced kind of discussion. And sometimes I think that even the clients that we deal with aren't quite sure of what success looks like.
Yep. Because
I've kind of had, there's this obvious thing, website hits or, products sold or, people into a showroom or I think... the more simple the campaigns are, if you take it to the other end of the spectrum, which is really a large kind of, national business that goes and conducts a piece of research and sees what the perceptions are of their business and whether it's positive or negative and goes, right, well, we need to change this perception or a market share piece it becomes quite I guess easier in a way because they've spent a whole bunch of money up front to get all these different KPIs that you're trying to measure and change, as I say, perception or, web traffic or whatever around, right?
As long as they listen to the information.
Well, this is true. This is true. Yeah, absolutely. And then... But you're right. Like sometimes it can be just as simple as like somebody wanting to hear their own voice, on the radio and being told that they're hearing it, and that's a brand kind of touch point for them, and they're kind of happy with that just going on and being a branding tool.
Yeah.
A lot of the campaigns that I've run over the years, sometimes, we might be running a large kind of national promo, for example, but then there's some person who's not even within the target market who's heard it, that then's contacted the client and said, hey, look, this is the amazing thing that you're going. I'd like to talk to you about a collab with, a business of mine. Or, hey, I'd really like to buy your business, actually. It's sounding really... So you get all of these... there's obviously the tangible kind of piece, which is that driving those metrics towards kind of a conversion or a sale, if you like. And then there's all of these intangible pieces, that you kind of get. I mean, we've sort of done, even national radio campaigns where we've been giving away cash, and the cash that the winners won has completely changed their life because, somebody's passed away and they haven't been able to. And there's some quite sort of, tear-jerking stories almost that you sort of don't expect, and it's that human touch kind of piece that you would, your focus was just getting as many eyeballs and ears onto this thing and getting them to take a loan, and actually it's come out the other side of it as having all of these nice little other pieces around the outside of it that it's kind of ticked the box on.
You could potentially write a song about.
You could say, oh yes, you could.
You see?
Yeah,
there we go. Hey, what about in the last few years or the last 10 years or whatever? Is there something that's gone horribly wrong, Jimmy? Have you had a really bad experience? I don't need you to name and shame, but, so I think about, we were just talking about this the other day, that we probably have one a year, which is sort of one project a year, which seems to be a nightmare. And you think to yourself, well, hold on with us. When did the signs become apparent? Was it right at the beginning, or was it once we had started the project, or what have you? And look, that's for however many number of reasons. The market's changed, something within the organisation's changed. There's no longer the appetite to continue with that, but we've committed to it. Who knows what it is. Do you have any where you sort of think to yourself, shit, that was a dog?
I had one sort of, 6 or 7 years ago, which was a timely, leading into Christmas promotion, and that had sort of, website assets. At the time, it had a whole bunch of audio, it had an on-air piece, it had billboards, there was, quite a lot going on. And we sort of pressed go on this campaign and then gone, sweet, let's see how it goes. And then anyway, 2 days into it, we get a call from the client going, I haven't seen this, I haven't heard this. I'm like, what do you mean? We've pressed go, it's all good. Da, 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 da. So anyway, as it turned out, somebody had gone on holiday and somebody had a baby. There was just this litany of errors right throughout the whole thing. And it was a time-sensitive campaign. Yep. And it's very, very hard to walk it back and go, oh, hey, we'll just make good on that. So obviously there's a bit of a firestorm, and, everybody's trying to throw everybody under the bus and all of that sort of thing. So, all of those kind of things, you manage to get through. It's terrible at the time, and you don't sleep, and you get that whole kind of feeling in your stomach where you're like, oh my God, it's going to be away. Fucking, your body thinks it's going to die. And anyway. But, we kind of pushed through that and made good on it and all of that sort of thing. But there's those little moments which I guess the reason why I'm telling that story is because those are the little moments that are back to that pain point that you just don't want to do again. You don't want to go through that process again. So so you become very, very diligent at checking things and making sure that everything's right. And I think the other thing is over-delivering with clients. I mean, if you've got a long-term relationship which goes on for 5 or 10 years, at some stage in that relationship, because you're dealing with so many humans on their behalf and emails and this, that and the other thing, it's inevitable that something
will be
potentially goes wrong at some point in time through no particular fault. But I remember at that time sort of trying to escape and weasel out of some of the responsibility, and I had a particularly he was a very good guy actually, but he was is what would you call him, as fair as he was also he lumped the responsibility back onto one person, which was account director at the time. He's like, Jimmy, there's no excuses here. I don't want to hear about them or them or them or them. As account director, you're responsible. You're responsible with the client. And you get those little penny drop moments where somebody goes, can't really argue with that. I mean, they did fuck it up.
But it's on me.
Like, Jimmy, whose responsibility is it to check? Mine. Yeah. Did you do that? No, I just pressed the email and it went, and I had made a couple of phone calls and people said that it was fine. But did you check? No.
Yeah.
And then you have that moment, I've got no comeback here.
And yeah, that sucks.
Yeah, and but it's also kind of no client wants to hear.
No.
Hey, look, Tim.
No.
Look, it's gone really wrong here, buddy.
No, they don't.
And look, but mate, it was old Bob over there, and it was old mate down here.
Yeah.
And don't care.
They don't care.
No,
they don't care.
Yeah.
All they care about is that it works, that they saw it returns dollars, or somebody told them at a barbecue how great that campaign was. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's a tough one though, right? And actually, without trying to say that there isn't responsibility in managing that account. I mean, I've definitely been in that same situation. The thing is, really, those clients don't understand the nuance. They don't understand all of the complexities. They don't understand that when somebody has a baby, that it's going to hold up this piece of work at least for 4 days.
Yeah.
If they're a decent human, 2 weeks, maybe longer. They don't care because the deadline's the deadline, right?
Yeah.
So, it's finding out robust processes and having that conversation up front in as much of an open way as possible to say, hey, these are the things which could potentially change that.
Yeah.
If it's time sensitive, we might need to build some extra bits and pieces in to protect that.
Yeah.
But then that's just having the conversation, and it maybe goes back to when you were talking about having the confidence to have those conversations with clients.
And look, I mean, that's always been you're always at the point if you're sort of account director, business development, that sort of side of it, or owner of a business or whatever, the buck stops with somebody, and you have to have a lot of those those conversations for various different reasons. There's a new contract negotiation, they don't like the new rates. There's there's a million and one reasons to kind of over the course of particularly 10 years or so, to have those. And look, people can be unreasonable on both sides of that as well,
Absolutely.
So they can, I think sometimes the biggest challenge in working with clients is actually getting a really solid brief from them, Who are you trying to target? Oh, everybody.
Yeah, no, you're not. Okay. You're not.
Right, good. Who are you?
Yeah.
Like, what's your company about? Oh, we sell widgets. Oh, okay, but who do you sell widgets to? Oh, everybody. So I think
getting really clear on defining that stuff is
and also I think you can also that's probably been the biggest interest piece for me in recent years is probably kind of digging deeper and finding out who's behind the brand, what are they about, what's the tone of voice actually look like for them, what does the billboard look like, who's your how do you talk to people, are you a bit bullish, are you a bit more reserved, are you funny, are you not, and then trying to, because I think what's happened particularly at the smaller end of the market is you've got this fragmentation, which is, you've got a social media company going out there and they're doing a whole bunch of content, and that doesn't say the same thing, or it's in a completely different tone to what the radio ad is, and the radio ad there doesn't really reflect the billboard, and because they've got a different designer on that, and there's a sort of a lack of cohesiveness, and I think all of that sort of comes back to businesses, potentially as they mature to a certain level, is having a really strong sense of who they are.
Yeah.
And the same, and a lot of that develops over time,
Yeah, developing the brand and being strong within the brand, knowing what the brand is, where it's positioned and how to talk to it.
Yeah.
And then there's also managing, like never before, now we have an internal person who makes videos, or we have an internal person who does social, and we have it.
100%.
But they're only doing 20 hours a week on that, and the other 20 hours they're doing admin, and then they're doing this and this.
Yeah.
And can you help us with this part? And it's like, well, we can help you with that part, but don't you have your person who's doing that part? Yeah, but they're busy with this stuff at the moment, so can you do that? Oh, why does your stuff look different to our stuff?
Yeah.
Like, well, hold on, because we're following the brand guidelines and your person isn't. Oh yeah, but they're internal, so they get it. They really get it. Do they get it?
Yeah.
I don't know that they get it.
No.
It's like we're not making this stuff up. It's there's a process, But I don't know. I don't know how you get around those conversations. I guess I do. You just have the conversation, right? You have the conversation in you.
Yeah, I mean, what you're saying, and I think within some of that is sometimes there's the sacred cow as well within the organisation, and that's when then it becomes quite challenging to have a conversation. So I think because it's such a kind of that relationship kind of goes so strongly two ways, doesn't it? Shit brief equals
shit execution.
Yeah, execution.
Shit in, shit out.
And then fundamentally, you get blamed for the spend on the other side when it doesn't work.
Yep.
So you've got to be really, really honest up front and actually go, hey, do you know what? Have you considered this? Have you considered this? So I've become, I guess, I'm trying to become a little bit more diplomatic in how those discussions are had.
Yep.
I don't want to tell you the baby's ugly, but...
The baby's ugly. Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
I mean, I had an ugly baby too.
Yeah,
once.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, they weren't all beautiful.
Yeah, they weren't all beautiful.
Not like me.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
And so, but I think you can also do that. You can also do that over time. And sometimes, a lot of these businesses are quite successful in spite of some reasonably average branding and marketing and all of that sort of thing. So it's I guess it's my job to look at it with the utmost importance and try and put together the blue sky strategy of what that might look like.
Yep. And then wave some flags around with some of the pitfalls, maybe.
Yeah, 100%.
See how it plays out.
At the end of the day, I've definitely been in the situation where they're like, hey, look, I just want you to do a radio campaign, or I just want you to do some billboards, or I just want you to... That's fine. I just, I wanted to, have that conversation up front first.
Yeah.
And sometimes it just does build time because, when you've got a social media company and you've got somebody else doing your Google and you've got a million opinions coming at you all at once, and it's like, well, who do I actually believe? Look, who's the person? And when you're working at pace as well as a sort of a...
Where is the hierarchy? Who actually has the call on this?
Yeah, absolutely.
We've worked with companies, and it's more and more recently where we've been sat in the boardroom with the owner or the director or the marketing director or whomever it is, and then a social company, and then a media buyer, and then whomever it is, right?
Yeah.
And we've sort of sat around that table and gone, this is great, but the request was from here, so I'm reporting straight to you. I'm responding to the brief with you.
Yeah.
I don't know why these other parties are sitting in the room. It's kind of quite a mafia kind of a situation. It's very, very strange. Like, sure, if there's a reason for you to be here, absolutely, but hey, let's acknowledge that and tell us what you're bringing to the table. So I'm pitching over here with these people watching this pitch, and I'm going, this is weird.
Oh, Gary in the corner over there.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, were you in that one? And you're sort of going, okay, cool. If this is part of an integrated campaign, that's great. There's a reason for all of these people. But the point was that actually after that, then the question is, okay, do you guys have anything to add? It's like, well, hold on. Are we working together on something? I thought they were taking care of that. So, it's just the conversation has changed from, I think, when you sit in an agency and they've brought you in to service a piece of work and you sit there to do that one project, that one specific thing, and then everyone in the agency is on the same page and they're all working together. And so it's not random that they're there. Yeah. They're informing, and if you've got questions, they can answer them.
Yeah.
Whereas in that other situation, you're sitting with a whole bunch of different siloed people who have conflicting interests. They're all trying to take the dollar from the owner, and you're going, well, actually, I've got no interest. If I have to justify the thing that I've been asked for from you.
Yeah.
From these other people, well, what are we in the room for?
It's such a bizarre situation.
It's weird.
Yeah.
It's fucked.
Yeah. It's like nobody knows kind of which way to go, and definitely had my fair share of those situations.
So bizarre.
Yeah, it is.
Because you want to do your best work for the client, but maybe they are getting misinformation about how to get the best outcome.
Yeah, I think in a lot of those situations as well, like a lot of those kind of companies haven't necessarily been through that whole piece of like, who's our brand, what's our tone of voice, what's our logo look like, what's the execution on social, what's the execution in this digital, they just haven't done it because I think even if it's up to that sort of stage where you've got quite clear briefs on, it's quite easy once that piece is done, if you've got like a nice singular kind of USP that everybody can go, wow, that's the USP that we're trying to go for here.
There it is, that's what we're trying to solve.
There it goes, you go and do that, you go and do that. But a lot of the time it's not like that. They're sort of relying on the on the social media company to do some of the creative development.
Yeah.
And then one of their creatives has come up with some wacky idea that involves cats or, stoats or something for some random reason because, basically a brain fart moment. And
because someone somewhere in history responded well to that thing, even though it relates not at all.
The click-through rate by like 2 or 3 times because they had a cat in it. And you're like, well, but does that relate to the brand?
Yeah.
It gets a lot of good click-through.
Yeah, sure. So we've got a week's worth of equity.
Yeah. So do you want a cat meowing on the radio ad? And do you want the cat on the billboard as well? Or what's the cat got to do with...
Yeah, I don't know.
People like cats.
Yeah, people like cats. Oh, well, have the chat, have the chat. There it is.
But yeah, I've been through so many of those kind of scenarios over the years. Yeah. And I think, I think... that's also one of those things when you, having been around a little bit longer, you hopefully in these situations have a little bit more kind of sway over the conversation and what happens because you're like, hey, I've actually seen this play out before, and at the moment my feeling is that we've got too many people in the room here. We're a lot of cooks, and there's a few conflicts in here. Don't mind if you use that production company, but we just need a clear line of communication here. And because otherwise you just get too far down the road, and like time's really, really valuable.
Time is valuable for everyone.
Yeah, and there's nothing worse. Like you don't want a relationship that, you've been through the pitch and you've pulled, research and insights, and you've got some mocks done, and you've got 10 or 20 people involved in this project. Pitch it only to find out that it's somebody else has taken this bit and this bit and this bit. It's just a waste of resource for everybody.
Or somebody else's opinion on that was going to be of more impact than all of the 100%. Work that you put into it. Yeah. So don't waste people's time. Yeah, I get it. What about, let's talk about that then. What about balancing that? What about the work-life balance? And what about, knowing when to walk away?
Are you talking about from a deal or something?
Yeah,
or something like that?
I don't know, or just a client.
I think,
or I don't know, or a situation that you can't win, and if you can't win, you can't produce good work, or you can't produce a good outcome for that client. So if you're set up to fail from the beginning, to walk away, right?
I think that's like one of those things that's become easier as you become kind of like more mature in the business, and like I've got a pretty diversified portfolio of clients that I look after. So if any one of them at any time sort of falls over or whatever, then it doesn't necessarily change my life. I think it was quite different like when I was starting out, and I would just absolutely like pick up the phone, call anybody, take money for anything. Oh yeah, you wanted this, you wanted that? Yeah, sure, I can do that, can do that. Yep. And then as you kind of go through it and you, but it's also, I think, because you build up there's a cumulative knowledge that you then have, which basically means that you go, do you know what? Fuck it, I can actually add some value here, and I don't necessarily want to give that away for free either. Yep. Do you know what I mean? Like I'm happy to have a conversation and chill it over, but at some point, like I've only got so many hours in the day, and I actually really enjoy all of the people within my client portfolio at the moment, and if there's not the value being seen in what the conversation we're having here, you're probably just better to talk to this person or this person or this person, because I think it's probably a better fit. Like, love you a long time and, happy to have a beer or whatever. But yeah, so
let's
I think,
move this on.
Yeah. Just for everybody's sake sometimes, because there's nothing worse than doing something, that you don't want to be doing, or you feel like you're not valued, or they don't see the value that you can provide. I mean, it's fine, but yeah. I'm just too old.
Too old. Yeah.
Too long in the tooth, Tim.
Yeah, that's right. That's Jimmy.
Yeah.
That's Jimmy. He's on the plane.
Yeah. So, I mean, how those conversations would happen would be reasonably early on. I mean, it's just...
Catch it early.
Yeah,
deal with it.
Catch it early. Like, how do you want to work? Like, how do you want this to be? It's just up front.
Make it easy.
Yeah, because there's nothing worse than having those conversations when either party's frustrated.
Yep. It's too late.
And then it's like, because the other thing that I have, again, valued with time is that sort of cumulative value of having really good relationships with people across the business. So I'm like, if I go and call some favours here and here and here for you, these people that I've had 10-year plus relationships with, and then you turn around to me and you go, oh, nah, or, the changed the game on me. Like, I need to be sure that we are doing this,
Yep.
because otherwise it's not a me thing, it's also a them thing
Yep.
that they're putting their kind of time into.
Yep.
So I'm always really conscious of, whatever the little ecosystem or the community that you built around you
Yep.
looks like and is, and
Yep.
making sure that you're kind of managing that and managing those
Yeah.
relationships.
You're the one representing that at that time.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm obviously doing it on behalf, and that's all good. And you wanted this, and But anyway,
Yep.
so I think those are considerations that I kind of take into account when
Yep.
going down that path.
Yep. Okay, lucky last. Where are we? We're December 2023. What shape are we in? Are we mature as a country, with clients? Do they understand the landscape, the media landscape, and advertising and marketing? What do we need to do? How can we do better?
I reckon that. Look, it's diverse. It's as diverse as it is the number of clients that are out there. I think there's like an ongoing, proliferation of channels out there, and with that, there's a lot of players in that set up end of the market. Because you can set up a digital agency, with a laptop and your Google degree from your 12-week course or whatever it is. So I think there's a lot of that sort of servicing that lower end of the market. There's obviously social media up to big agencies, so there's a lot of different. There's a continuum, I suppose, of services that are out there. Some are terrible, some are amazing.
Yep.
I think from a client side, there is still kind of that piece that we touched on before, which is they think they need to do social, and they think they need to do Google, and they think they need to do all of these things, but they have one supplier here, and their daughter does this, and their auntie does that, and this person did the design, and and potentially like a lack of understanding at that smaller end of the value of just investing in that brand piece up front. And then overall, up to kind of almost that mid-size sort of business is actually, speaking of brand, it tends to be much more acquisition or ROI driven, which has been the way forward with, sort of digital media over the last, 10 years in particular. But there's a whole bunch of work being done like globally, like Mark Ritson's probably the OG in that space, and one of the best proponents of like making sure that you've got like a solid brand, your creative's really good, your like all of the fundamentals are sound, and you've done the thinking up front, and you've kind of been through the right process to kind of get to where you're going, and therefore your briefs out to market are right, and your social media agency's getting the right brief, and
surprise, the execution works.
Yeah, well, this is the thing, is because when you nail the execution, marketing works its ass off, man. Like it's funnily enough, it works. All of those millions of dollars that get spent are not for nothing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I guess it just comes down to minimising the waste of, because you can there's so much wallpaper out to market. There is so much like basically vomit over the internet, just going, with no real tangible kind of reason for being. Like, what do you want people to feel? What do you want them to think? What do you want them to do? Make people feel something. Like, have a look at some of the best ads, like that are sort of showcased. All you got to do is hit YouTube or some marketing blogs or, whatever, to kind of just get that little moment of a great brand ad, which actually builds value in your business rather than kind of eroding it,
Yeah, I do know.
Yeah.
On that, we're going to leave it. Jimmy.
Jesus. Okay.
Bloody star.
Yeah.
That's it. Thank you.
Thanks, Tim.
Fuck. Thanks for listening, Pod Peeps. For more info on how we work or what we can bring to your business or project, get in touch at ruffles.co.nz. See you on the next one.